There are so many organizations worldwide that are looking for actionable information. I think it's time to take a look at what pathway gets you that information. My name is James Stanger, and I represent CompTIA. CompTIA is an industry organization. We do a tremendous amount of education. And I want to talk to you today, educate you about what it means to get actionable information. For years at CompTIA, for decades, we have trained people in things such as help desk, in cybersecurity, in the cloud. We've moved into data analytics as a major area of emphasis, because we have found that as organizations want to transform themselves digitally, they realize that the one thing that allows them to do digital transformation, or DX, is information, not even data. We have all sorts of data around, but truly actionable information. This is why so many job roles focus on things such as data analytic skills. Because if an organization wants to change its way of doing things, it's not just bringing in some new technology. That's really not what digital transformation is. Digital transformation is creating a data feedback loop using technology, but making it possible inside and outside of IT, okay, to use information more wisely. And this is why we need more information workers. Some people call them data analysts, that's fine. I like to call them information workers. So let's take a look at some of the things that are so important, because we've seen major changes in the way we do business today worldwide. I've been lucky enough to travel around the world, from Japan to throughout the United States, India, Singapore, Thailand, the UK, Europe, South Africa, and talk to people about digital transformation. And once again and again, people have talked to me about the importance of having real information so that companies know what they're transforming themselves into. And that's the really important. And it's a question of the idea of experience. How can we capture the experience of customers? How can we capture the experience of employees, but also partners, and learn from that experience? And that's all about gathering data and gathering actionable information. Because if organizations don't, they're going to find themselves kind of overwhelmed. It's a picture of me almost getting swept off a rock into the ocean. This happens to organizations where they ask for data and they get too much and it's overwhelming. And so let's find out what it means for organizations to kind of get past this problem of too much data, because it's very important to capture the mindset of customers, of employees, and partners. Well, let me give you some context, kind of an overall picture, all right, about what it means to transform an organization. And I'm going to go back into history a bit, so forgive me. We all know about the Industrial Revolution. Okay, we're living in a version of the Industrial Revolution, but we're not living in the first Industrial Revolution. That was when steam and water power were doing their thing. Okay, we're talking about steamships and steam locomotives and things. That's the first Industrial Revolution, the beginnings of mechanization. The second Industrial Revolution involved mass production, the assembly line, really the automobile. And there's my old Toyota Land Cruiser there that I'm fixing up. It involved the use of electricity and things. Well, the third Industrial Revolution was all about IT, okay? They call it the information age, okay, I get it. But, you know, the third Industrial Revolution wasn't as information driven as we'd like to think. It set the stage for our use of information today, but it didn't really make it possible. But the PC became kind of the ultimate representation of that particular epoch. So we've moved from the steam engine to the car, to the automobile, to the PC, or to the mobile device even. Well, the fourth Industrial Revolution, which is really where we sit today, is where we are combining our physical Industrial Revolution elements, whether it be an automobile or whether it be a PC or a mobile device or an IoT device, with information, with data. We're basically using artificial intelligence to combine all of this. That's the era that we're in. So we've moved from the days of Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who kind of brought us many of the innovations having to do with the steam age. We're moving on from Mr. Toyota, who brought us Toyotas. who brought us, it was an example of that kind of assembly line mass production. We were moving on really from the Linus Torvalds or Steve Jobs kind of era of the third industrial revolution. We're moving to an area where Manjula Talreja here, a person who helped bring us a lot of the cloud and an understanding of information as a very important element to digital transformation, is basically explaining to us all of the efficiencies that we can create. So as we live in this fourth industrial revolution, we're kind of living in this ambient computing kind of world. And by ambient computing, I'm talking about not just the use of the cloud, not just the use of IoT, but the idea that as the devices that we're wearing, our smartwatches or what have you, they basically make it possible for us to put out tons of information. And what you're looking at are pictures of not only smart light bulbs or smart watches, but you're looking at pictures of people who have been geo-fenced, people who, as they walk down the road, basically get processed, okay? And intelligent technology monitors you. And as you are geo-fenced and information, as you move from environment to environment, that context comes with you. And this is what that fourth industrial revolution is all about, and the importance of understanding data, okay? And more importantly, the importance of understanding information. And we need workers that make it possible to capture that information properly, to govern that information properly, but to process that data into actionable information. So we already live in the fourth industrial revolution. We already live in an ambient computing world. So what are the skills that are necessary? Give you a quick story. I was once walking in Scotland. I was walking among these standing stones. These standing stones have been around for thousands of years. And there I was in a Stone Age setting, literally, right? But I had my mobile phone with me, and I noticed that I was getting geofenced, even there in this remote location, because I suddenly started getting advertisements. Oh, hey, you're at this place. How about going to this pub? Or here's a museum to go to. This is what I mean by context-aware computing. Okay, it's happening right now. We do a lot of research at CompTIA, and one of the research pieces we did some time ago, we asked, what are the growth drivers that are going to help organizations move through 2023 to make a lot of money? And there's a list here, and it's a list here talking about IoT software and hardware, the use of the cloud, software as a service, things like that, robotics. But notice I've underlined it here or circled around it. The idea of big data and analytics is a major element. Well, that's because all of this technology that we're using throws off tons of data. And what we need are workers that can turn that data into actionable information. We drilled down into this and we asked people, what are some of the skills that are really going to set people apart, that are truly going to differentiate organizations? And they all stated, well, basically, moving through 2023 and beyond, it's the ability to integrate data into the organization. That's the digital transformation part. The ability to visualize data, to tell a story, okay? Very important concept. Sure, database administration is important and predictive analytics, but notice that more and more organizations are asking for people who can say, look, we've gathered data, we can visualize it, we can clean it up, but now what we need are people who can apply policies to it so that it can stay secure, so that organizations can use it ethically and properly without getting in legal trouble and things like that. If you want, there's a link that you can check out here. I highly recommend that you check out our research and our industry trends analysis discussing the importance of data. One of the things that we've noticed, though, is that there are some gaps here. And I'm here to talk to you about ways that we can kind of fill in those gaps and make it possible to get people who have the right data analytics work. Because we need people who can bring information to a company, to turn raw data into actionable information, who can basically get the information out properly, can get it out quickly. So people will talk about things like data warehousing, or they talk about things, but really it comes down to this. How can you, right, help your organization make great decisions? And I've talked with workers around the world about this. For example, in the US military, I've talked extensively and worked extensively and consulted with organizations in the military and the Department of Defense in the US about how they can help their workers, their military folks, make great decisions in the field. But I like to talk about this in terms of Legos, okay? So I've got some Legos to show you here. Nice little toys. These are my grandkids' toys. Trust me, I don't play with them myself too much. But notice you can start with Legos in a very basic sort of way, right? But after a while, what you can do is you can start arranging these, and you can create these into shapes. In fact, my grandson turned this into a pretty cool little rocket type ship, all right? If you look at the picture that's on this PowerPoint slide deck, you'll see some very ambitious people turned Legos into the Empire State Building, all right, a representation of it. I'm talking to you about this because in the same way that we need workers to turn data into real information, it's the same sort of thing that we need people who can, it's kind of like when kids will take random Legos and then they'll actually turn it into something much more sophisticated. So the building blocks of data, right, are something that you can create and really create actionable information. And this is so important to understand because we need workers that have a unique set of skills to turn information into a visualized narrative, into a real story. Not just, well, here's a bunch of data, but truly represent that data into actionable information. We've seen the democratization of data over the years, and that's a fancy phrase of saying basically that organizations have been able to use data for many, many years. Governments, up until the 1970s, 1980s, were really about the only organizations that had the kind of computing power and the kind of money to really work with data. Well, over the years, though, we've seen organizations such as Nielsen and, of course, Google and many others take that same approach and use data. But see, now it's not just left to the large companies to process data. Now, any organization can do it. I've talked with organizations in Tokyo, for example, very small organizations that don't have millions of dollars, and they have realized that they have access to the same data sets and the same abilities and the same technologies that much larger companies have. It's available to much more people. This is what I mean by democratization. So we've seen this in the technology world, we've seen this elsewhere, but when it comes to data, that's a really important concept. So now, here are the skills that you need to give your workers so that you can take part in this kind of fourth industrial revolution, in true digital transformation. I like to call this the data life cycle. And you can see the data life cycle involves collecting the data. It involves something that we call mining. Data analysts call it mining the data, to analyze it, and then to visualize it, and then to make sure it's secure. Okay, that's what governance is. It's more than just security, though. Governance means that you are capturing the information properly, you're storing it properly, and that you are on scope and within scope. But it's basically a cycle, and it involves these 5 different elements. So as you collect, you're configuring resources. As you mine, you're identifying trends. You are, in mining, you also eliminate redundant information or unimportant information or multiple users. You're cleaning things up a little bit. When it comes to analysis, you're actually getting in to saying, well, there is a trend that we're finding in this information. And when it comes to visualization, we're talking about reporting here, creating the appropriate PowerPoint slide for the appropriate audience. Is the audience a technical audience? Is it managers or executives? These are 3 different audiences, for example, that you have to think about. Reporting and visualization. And then governance is basically maintaining the integrity and the quality and the security of that information. So we need workers who have this. And something I think is really important to think about when it comes to data analytics, I'm specifically talking about the job role of data analysts, but also the function of data analytics. Too often there are organizations out there that will use the term data science and data analytics interchangeably. They'll just say, oh, we want data scientists. Well, there's a difference between a data analyst and a data scientist. It's very distinct. We've conducted research on this. So a data analyst is much more tactical. Data scientist, much more strategic. Now you think, well, okay, that means we need more data scientists because it's all about strategy. Actually, what we've found is that the world needs many more data analysts. Data analytics involves working with a data set that is already somewhat structured. And by that, I mean, it's something where a spreadsheet has come to you, or a collection of a tremendous amount of data, terabytes of data has come to you in some sort of format, and you need somebody to go in and clean it up a little bit and to visualize it, okay? So a data analyst is much more tactical. And here's the thing. organizations worldwide, from small companies of 10 to 25 people to medium-sized companies, 200 or larger, or very large companies, all need data analysts. When it comes to data scientists tend to do data modeling for machine learning and artificial intelligence. It takes years to become a data scientist. Your first step in becoming a data scientist is being a data analyst. And what we're finding at CompTIA is that the world needs more data analysts because it's kind of a skill that every business needs to continue moving forward. They might consult with data scientists on some level, but on a day-to-day basis, data analysts are far more common and a much stronger need. In fact, and to bring into it just a little bit more clarity, a data scientist uses algorithms and machine learning, okay? A data analyst helps collect and store and maintain data. They're far more tactical. And really, I think the important thing to focus on here right now is the need for data analysts. And so this distinction is something that's very important. I think it tends to get lost in a lot of academic circles. I think it tends to get collapsed in a lot of marketing. It's something that needs to be really thought through very carefully, and which is what we've done at CompTIA. Let me talk about data analytics job roles, because there are so many traditional job roles out there. Business intelligence analysts. We've noticed at CompTIA for years that there are people who at the help desk and the service desk do a lot of analytics. Managers of help desk do that, but there are also consultants that do that. For years, we've had web analysts and social media analysts and things like that. We've noticed over the last 5 years or more the idea of security analysts. So there are many different job roles that are out there, but the activities are very common, okay? There are activities that are very universal to whatever job role you can think of. And that involves data collecting, cleaning and validating the data, doing a little bit of data modeling and teasing out new insights, okay? It's creating reports and visualization. All these areas are very important. So as people talk about, well, we want to focus on the user experience, they're really talking about people who have tactical data analytics skills, not data science skills, really. That's a little more advanced, but data analytics skills. That's so important. And we're finding that workers do not have those data analytics skills. They just don't, okay? Here's a less traditional, more modern understanding of data analytics, which is basically engineers, salespeople, marketers, managers, regardless of job role, need these skills. So even if the word analytics or data is not found inside of a job role, more and more organizations are requiring these skills of their workers. So you might be a marketing person or an executive or somebody who's a consultant or even a developer or whatever job role. These data analytics skills are extremely important. Data analytics is a first step to data science, but I want to focus just on this that first step of data analytics. And we're seeing, for example, that the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics expects the number of hired data analysts to grow by 25%, at least until 2030. Now, I realize the US Bureau of Labor Statistics is not in Japan, but it is an important bellwether of understanding where technology is going in this kind of fourth industrial revolution world. Over the years, we've worked with organizations such as Discover Card. I was recently talking with one of their technologists there over at Discover in the fintech world. And he said, look, it's all about identifying trends for us. That's how we stay in business. And I asked him, I said, his name is Carlos Ewing. And he said, look, we need people to identify trends and identify actionable information so that we can make our customers happier. And many people have talked to me about the data value chain. It's kind of 3 steps, as it were. Basically, where you collect the data, you process and organize it and manipulate it in a proper way, and then you visualize it. And so each of these states is very important. And so when it comes to the skills and the job roles that are available, let's take a look at some of these things. So for example, let me bring up security as an example of doing data analytics. It's all about obtaining a data set. It could be a log file, this ugly set of log files here from, I think that's proxy server log. Well, you have to find a way to clean it up and analyze it and look for unique information. And then you have to find a way to visualize it. So you can turn this ugly log file into something that actually is like, well, looky here. Here is a chart that tells me a little bit of information about what the offending systems here. In this case, it's a security issue. So there's just an example of, in a specific job role of IT security, of how analytics works. But understand, when it comes to data analytics, it's very important to understand that analytics is important inside of IT job roles like security, that's fine. But even outside of IT, it's very important. One thing I noticed, I was working with my boss, Tim Herbert. He showed me something that WebGT came up with, basically an instance of information security came up with of artificial intelligence, and said, well, what is the job role of the cybersecurity analyst? And this is really important to understand because it came up with a somewhat decent description of a cybersecurity analyst, but it had some bad information in it. For example, that a cybersecurity analyst had to have a bachelor's degree, for example. Well, that's not the case. This is an example really of bias, of bad information that made it into artificial intelligence. We need data analysts to not just trust what artificial intelligence or machine learning comes up with. We need data analysts to overcome biases, to overcome bad information, because it's all about garbage in and garbage out, right? If you put the wrong information in, you'll get something bad out. When it comes to help desk, for example, this is a help desk ticket you're looking at. It's a discrete piece of data. It's a data set. And we need workers, for example, in the help desk world who can understand what it means to process this data into information so that we can learn to improve customer experience, for example. So yes, it's all about customer satisfaction and the speed of ticket resolution at a help desk. We get that. But one of the things that we noticed is if we really look at the data that is out there and what the information is telling us, customer satisfaction is really the vital thing to transforming an organization. Well, so this way we asked, well, what drove customer satisfaction? See, you're now delving into data and you're doing real data analytics now. And you're not working on just opinions, but real fact here. So it was the ability to do troubleshooting, for example, that allowed organizations to be more relevant and to support users in any channel, any communications channel, Facebook or what have you, that they wanted to. When it comes to employee experience, it was data analytics is so important because it was more than just response time or satisfaction stats. It was unique troubleshooting, what kind of channel support method was used and things like this. So when you put data to work, it's very important to just get past the Googling and just automating things. We don't want to ignore the garbage in, garbage out principle when it comes to information. This is why data analysts are so important, because they make it possible for us to have the right information, the right data, and to focus on the unique value propositions and not just see data as this mysterious thing, but something that really allows us to move forward with confidence. You're looking at a group of workers, all of them who are data analysts on one level or the other. There's a gentleman, Chris Cochran, there. He is a person who worked for the military doing data analytics for security. You're looking at a group of students in Japan who were learning more about data analytics, not really having anything to do with IT, but business data analytics. In Africa, I was able to talk with workers, for example, who were doing data analytics at the help desk. There's a friend of mine, Tim Niles, there at Cisco, who was doing work in the HR department for employee experience. While I was in India, for example, I talked with a team of workers who were security analysts. All of them had universal data needs. So as you learn more about data analytics, as you learn more about the importance of that, not data science, but data analytics, I want you to understand how important it is to transform your organization by employing and upskilling people who have proper data analytics work. That's how you're going to excel as a business doing digital transformation, because it's all about data analytics, but working and obtaining and using actionable information. Thank you very much. All the best to you and take care.